55 seconds of logos. Also Comcast and Miramax. While they didn't give Aaron Corey an apple, that scarf might as well be one, because it makes him look straight up like an asshole.
For years he's been kept here to be studied. I suppose the state has lost interest in discovering anything further.
I get this is supposed to be a direct sequel to the original 1978 film, but Michael Myers disappeared at the end of that film after Dr. Loomis
Shot him 6 times!
So how did Michael get back to the hospital? And yeah, they try to retcon it a bit with the Hawkins character, but you, movie, and you better believe this will not be the only time I bring up why this being a direct sequel to the original doesn't work at all.
Oh, make no mistake, he's aware. He was watching you as you arrived.
How? Maybe one thing they discovered about Michael Myers was that he literally has eyes in the back of his head, or eyes connected to the security cameras when they drove up?
Perhaps you'd like to tie your left shoelace? Mr. Tovoli here has a fixation for such things. Underestimate no one.
But feel free to walk amongst them. They usually just ignore you.
I've been following your case for years and still know very little about you.
Probably because all he did was kill his sister and then years later showed back up and killed a trucker, a couple of teenage girls, and some horny dude named Bob, who may or may not have been a pedophile. I mean, his murder spree story wouldn't even get a whiff from My Favorite Murder, so why is this podcast bothering with it? Now, if you had 9 more movies worth of murders...
You feel it, don't you, Michael? You feel the mask.
No, he sees it, remember? Also, we're really gonna say Michael has this big connection to a mask he stole from a hardware store back in 1978? Besides, we know this bullshit wouldn't be in this good a condition after all these years anyway. Also, man, I would give every sin back if they had a scene showing the podcasters opening up a 1978 Captain Kirk mask and painting it to turn it into this. Also, ×3. This might make for great television, but it would make for a terrible podcast. You'd just hear some guy saying bullshit like this, and he could be in his mom's basement reciting this as far as you know.
Say something!
Basically, that was 7 minutes of nothing happening, all before the main title screen. Nobody dies because of this guy taunting Michael with his old mask, and oh sure, we now know he's connected to it, and that will come up later when he escapes. But that's all nostalgia bull. I just can't take this seriously. Also, out of 11 films, we have 3 named simply Halloween? This seems stupid. Should have just bit the bullet and called it Halloween H40, because it's one Josh Hartnett and a girl from the creek away from being just that.
Could it be that one monster has created another?
Dude, can't you wait to record this when you're not driving? Don't zoom and drive, man. Besides, can't your partner do the driving while you do this?
How does $3,000 sound?
Whoa, why start at $3,000? Why not try like 1,000 first and see if that does the trick? Movie doesn't know how to lowball.
Our last project shed new light on a murder case from 20 years ago.
Well, actually, it raised more questions than it answered, and people still think Adnan did it.
I believe in Michael Myers, a deranged serial killer, but the boogeyman...
He's not a serial killer, right? Especially if we're, let's all say it together now, making this a direct sequel to the original film. Maybe a spree killer or simply a mass murderer, but not a serial killer, since he killed just about everyone in the same goddamn place, and with one exception, on the same goddamn day.
2 failed marriages, rocky relationship with your daughter and granddaughter.
This is how you get a story? Bringing up failed marriages and bad relationships?
Michael Myers murdered 5 people.
Oh, come on. We're not even going to acknowledge all those deaths he was responsible for in Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. I have a photographic memory.
He'll be locked away until the end of his days.
That's the idea.
He already was, though. He's perfectly fine at Haddonfield. A hospital with a 40-year containment streak should not be messed with.
I showed him the mask. It was nothing. No response, nothing.
With the exception of a random gust of wind, a bunch of other inmates cackling, and a dog barking. But yeah, nothing out of the ordinary.
Oh, man. I got peanut butter on my penis.
Well, that's why you don't pull your out while making a sandwich. At least not that kind of sandwich.
Can you stop?
I gotta clean this peanut butter off my hand.
You clearly said penis earlier, and now I'm wondering if you just did that for the shock value in front of your daughter.
Wasn't it her brother who, cold-blooded murderlated all those teenagers?
Murderlated.
No, that's just a bit that some people made up to make him feel better, I think.
Why would Michael being Laurie's brother make people feel better? Of all the reasons people would make up about a story, why would making them feel better be the first thing you think of? This is the I did it to protect you of urban legend coping.
Fate took a different course.
Fate took a different course. More like fate took the same course that the original Halloween and Halloween H2O did. Nice try, movie. Your rhyming couplets. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Dr. Samuel Loomis, January 22nd, 1979.
My suggestion is termination.
That's not Sam Loomis. That's 100% Ernst Stavro Blofeld. Completely different characters with no connection whatsoever. Don't even look it up. Looks like Jamie Lee Curtis went to the Denzel Washington School of drinking inside a parked car for actors portraying alcoholism and took advanced placement courses. I guess it's a heavy night for Haddonfield hospital transfers, huh? Weird they decided that Michael Myers and a whole bunch of his fellow patients needed to get moved on the same night.
Michael Myers is still my patient until he's in somebody else's care, so I'm seeing my duty through till the end.
Yeah, but you could drive your self and not riding a bus of convicted mentally ill patients, which they would never let you do anyways?
We're going as Bonnie and Clyde.
Skip!
Yeah.
Judy Greer looks as irritated as I am that she's being wasted in yet another terrible movie.
I'm glad you got to see that. I never told you how I spent my childhood.
But I will conveniently right now before Michael Myers comes back to terrorize the family after being dormant for 40 years. Also, Halloween movie steals the John Connor backstory from Terminator 2.
Lumpy, you stay here. I'm gonna make sure no one's hurt. You call the police.
Or how about you call the police and protect your son from what appears to be a bunch of lunatics walking in the middle of the road? Or just be a shitty parent. That seems to be a pretty common occurrence in Haddonfield.
Run!
Dude, do you really think I go around taking advice from people with bloody faces? Michael couldn't just steal the truck while the kid was outside. He had to make sure that the kid died, I guess. This Halloween, evil isn't practical. Also, movie takes 31 minutes to Halloween.
Did he escape?
Asshole plays the pronoun game so that Officer Hawkins has to ask who the hell he is. I mean, I get that they didn't think the bus was going to crash and Myers would escape, but how about you not tempt fate by transferring him the night before Halloween?
As she sat combing her hair, unaware.
Why are they taking these audio notes here at the graveyard? They know this story by memory. They aren't filming anything here. They aren't even saying anything specific about the cemetery. If you really wanted to get the feel of things and translate that to your podcast listeners, you do this at the old Myers house. But this could be done at the studio. Hey, good thing the people with Michael's mask are just hanging out at his sister's gravesite right as he's paying a visit.
He continued stabbing.
And as we sinned before and will sin again, he curiously looked up at the knife instead of the person he was stabbing.
Oh, still checking IDs of the patients we recovered to figure out who's who.
Holy shit, Omar J. Dorsey has clearly wandered off the set of another movie, and I'm pretty sure it's one I'd rather be watching.
But hey, what are we gonna do? Cancel Halloween?
In the first Halloween, which is the only movie this one counts, the story is mental patient escapes, comes back to his hometown, and kills babysitters and their boyfriends on Halloween night, which was the anniversary of the night he killed his sister. That's all you need to cancel Halloween, and you can lose the snark as well. Teeth confetti. Contithi? Let's face it, the only reason the podcasters existed in this movie was for exposition and to be murder fodder for Michael Myers so he could get his mask back. Did Laurie take trapdoor building lessons from Ken Adam? Also, good to know that when she really needs this shelter, it'll only take 5 hours for this kitchen island to rotate out of the way.
You have no security system, Karen.
Sure, Laurie broke into their house to prove a point. I just don't know why she didn't just make a phone call and explain that Michael is on the loose first. And I'm not sure why she thought this would win Karen over.
The bus crashed.
What?
Yeah, exactly. What? The bus crashed is as useful as the new Pitbull album is out. There's nothing you can do with that information.
The world is not a dark and evil place. It is full of love and understanding.
I mean, I get not every town has a Michael Myers, but the dark and evil place is pretty accurate. And also, this town does actually have a Michael Myers, so listen to your mom, maybe? Jesus Christ, how did Laurie get here so fast? True, we don't know how much time has passed, but it feels like Laurie's apparating into every scene. We saw her at her house playing with the trap door, then she broke into her daughter's house, and now she's here, all in a span of 3 minutes of movie time. Hey man, you were just at a gas station and an auto mechanic shop. You couldn't have picked up a weapon there? Or do you have rules about carrying weapons with you to your killing site? Just think, if this tool shed isn't left comically open during Halloween, then what?
I don't have my stethoscope. I need it. I'm gonna get it. I'll be right back. You're not gonna believe that they were in my pocket the whole time.
They meaning your stethoscope? You went back in to get a stethoscope and they were in your pocket the whole time? I am not for 1 minute going to believe that a woman that is this into Halloween isn't dressed up and doesn't have any decorations inside the place. She just carved 67 pumpkins and put them on the front porch, but otherwise she's not obsessed or anything. Also, while it's disturbing that Michael is killing a bunch of randos in this neighborhood, it's done with the least amount of suspense possible. It's a fun one-shot and everything, but in the original Halloween, Michael seemed almost curious about who he was killing. Creeping around in the shadows and the edges of the frame, his presence always felt even when he wasn't there. This is just murder porn. I'm so glad this movie that's supposed to be all about an older woman dealing with a traumatic past and conquering her fears found a way to have a wasted section with a bunch of teenagers doing dumb teenager.
You used to be my favorite, but now you're like my 10th favorite boy that I nanny. And I babysit some loser kids.
If I had some other kind of babysitter, she'd be reading me a story. I wouldn't be up clipping my nasty ass toenails.
Okay, while there's not enough of these two together, it doesn't change the fact that they're awesome and a welcome distraction. I'm feeling generous enough to knock off a sin for Vicky and Julia.
She came up to me and like whispered in my ear, okay, you don't have to cry about it.
Why is this scene?
Tonight is the night. The one we'll remember for the rest of our lives.
You are so getting dry tonight.
So this movie is not only wasting Judy Greer, but apparently Virginia Gardner as well. I mean, Jesus, there are some good actors in this movie, which somehow makes it worse.
You checked behind the curtains?
I checked the whole place.
This kid knows that's a lie because he watched her the whole time and the curtains were in view. The rest of the time she spent pulling the prank. Oh no, the closet door won't close. That's a closet's main function. It's right there, right in the word. Anyway, I'm sending this because does anybody remember what Hitchcock said about suspense? Something to the effect of, if you're having a conversation and a bomb blows up, that's a surprise. But if the audience knows there's a bomb while they're having a conversation, that's suspense. Somehow this scene invokes neither surprise nor suspense. So let's go back to this scene for a second. Dave starts up the motorbike, creating a loud noise, which would make anyone who's ever seen a horror movie realize when Vicky calls for Dave, he won't hear her. However, he's already tipped the bike over and can hear her perfectly fine. So why'd the movie even bother with that if the noise wasn't ever going to be a factor? It would have been classic horror movie trope nonsense, but goddammit, it's our kind of horror movie trope nonsense. Movie wants us to believe that Michael recognizes Laurie, a random babysitter he stalked one night 40 years ago. Halloween purists can call the plot twist dumb all they want, but do you know the only way this scene works? He's her brother, and Halloween 2 actually happened!
Michael!
Did you not see him go down the stairs? You're just gonna fire shots from this room at this angle. Also, why the is he still here? He went through all this trouble to stage the bodies and then just camped out at the house. There's nothing inherently special about the people he just killed other than they're secondary characters in this movie. They're no more special than the 2 women he killed before this. This is really one of those the movie needed it, so this happened moments.
I'm Michael's doctor, Ranbir Sartain.
You're the new Loomis.
I love how this movie just throws Sam Loomis's name around like everyone knows who that is. Like there are people out there that would use that name for a Twitter handle or something.
Did you know our friend Hawkins here was the first responding deputy when Michael was apprehended in 1978?
I mean, she was literally there that night, so most likely.
Do you know that I pray every night that he would escape?
That sounds insane. Sounds like you have a reason for that. Why would you just stop before giving the reason?
You see, this is what has intrigued me through my studies. How does a crime like Michael's affect him?
That is really interesting.
What are you doing?
You deserve better, right?
This character didn't need to happen. Also, you know, if it got rid of all this teenage drama nonsense that even the CW wouldn't touch, it would almost be a mediocre film.
Their beautiful bodies got me all chubbed out, Allison.
Just want to point out that Vicky and Dave had to die before this quad.
I'm a doctor. Lock your doors.
That would make about as much sense as me saying, I'm a dick on YouTube. Make sure you eat a sandwich.
All right, pick your poison. I like a revolver. They never jam.
That's 100% not true. The cylinder gaps can get blocked and prevent the cylinder from rotating, and or the axle can begin to unthread as you shoot, just to name a couple things.
This is tactical. He waited for this night. He's waited for me.
Interesting. So what was all that other killing that had nothing to do with you at all about then?
Here we go. Brace yourselves.
I'm just about to run this motherfucker down with these 2 civilians in the car because what are we gonna do? Cancel Halloween?
Get away from the body. Stand back.
I'm not going to say it again. Step away from the suspect. Step away.
Yeah!
Man, just this stupid twist so hard. And yet again, we're killing off the most interesting characters in the movie. Also, this twist is way more interesting if we get to know his character better. If he had truly been the new Loomis, he could have been pretending to help everybody like Loomis did, only to spring a trap on them in the end. Laurie would have been smart enough to figure it out because she's been training for this night for 40 years, but this comes sort of out of nowhere because he spent most of the movie's time recovering from a gunshot wound. That he's the secondary antagonist kind of makes me shrug. As the multiple edits with dark photography and close-ups suggest, the doctor, who is currently wearing the mask, just lifted Michael into the back seat of this truck. And knowing how big Michael is, I'm going to go ahead and say I don't believe he has the strength to do that.
Now, a banh mi sandwich. Banh mi is essentially just the Vietnamese version of a French baguette. Mm-hmm. And the term actually refers to the bread and not so much the contents therein.
This is some very nice Tarantino-esque dialogue in a Halloween movie, but I'm going to go ahead and say the movie has time for this, mainly because it's one of the only instances where they try to fit this kind of dialogue into the movie. Running! 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 Excitement? Okay, supposedly Michael drives a cop car to Laurie's place, and in the time it takes Ray to walk outside, he manages to get out of the car without being seen and stage a murder scene, where he's turned one of the cops' heads into a jack-o'-lantern. And I'm saying that the speed at which he did this, plus the know-how, is more terrifying than the act itself. Do you know how long it takes to hollow out a human head for this purpose? Like, a super long time. I could barely get through half of the job, I mean, I've never done anything like that before in my life, so what do I know? Also, how did Michael drive in here without going to the gate first? The podcasters came here and had to talk to Laurie through an intercom before being allowed access. And I feel like Laurie's the type of person who would have an alarm set if the fence was breached. She's also the type that would see a cop car and still ask the driver questions before allowing them in. How? This movie seems to forget the podcasters were here and that we saw a giant cage door in front of the main door. We should be seeing some part of that cage coming through the glass at the very least. How did he punch through that and the glass? If he's that strong, he should have just battle rammed the door down. Also, unless Michael can contort his body to be as thin as the middle section of that door, there is no way Laurie couldn't see he was there when she looked out the window. Also, the is Laurie just standing in front of the door for? She has trained for this, and I am certain staying away from doors and windows is part of that. Wow, Laurie looks remarkably unharmed and without concussions after taking several severe blows to the head.
I was wrong to raise you the way I did, but at least I can protect you.
Last minute parenting. Yep, it's your grandmother's shooting range. It's not all that scary, maybe just to you, but the audience saw this in the daylight, and it simply does not matter. No way. After Laurie shot Michael's fingers off, she went down into the shelter and turned on all the lights outside. The camera was very particular about showing Ray's body there. Not long after, we saw Michael sans 2 fingers and a thumb standing in the kitchen with nobody in sight. Laurie tried shooting at him from down in the basement and then immediately walked upstairs to confront him. He did not have the means or time or even 2 hands to be able to pick up Ray and display him in an upstairs closet without being seen or heard. I don't understand at this point why Laurie doesn't just turn on a light. In fact, while it made sense at first to turn off all the lights before he got here, I now wonder what the wisdom was of that, considering that he's a pure evil entity where lights or lack thereof shouldn't even be an issue for him. I'm not saying a woman in her late 50s fighting a man in his early 60s can't be exciting, but I am saying this scene of a woman in her late 50s fighting a man in his early 60s is not exciting. See, this is cool because she was looking down on him in the first Halloween, except it actually wasn't her, it was Loomis. But he's dead, so now I have to do the reversal with her, and I need to change my shorts. So now I'm wondering how Michael got back down here after Laurie went upstairs and methodically locked down everywhere she went so that he couldn't follow her. And yes, maybe he just figured out how to work those security doors, but we never heard the door go back up, and those suckers are loud. Maybe it's one of the nitpickiest nitpicks that I have ever knitted, but I feel it's important to point out for some reason because I'm being a super dick. Not okay. Why are you f***ing saying anything?
I can't do it! I'm sorry, I can't do it! Gotcha.
Gotta say, that was cool. I mean, probably too little too late. Sure, have a sin back.
Happy Halloween, Michael.
Laurie, this is bad form. You know goddamn well this knife isn't going to work. And besides, probably November 1st and not even Halloween anymore, and I can't let that slide. Allison has a knife here, but 6 seconds later, she's looking for the knife, which is way over here.
It's not a cage, baby. It's a trap.
Yeah, sounds like this was the plan all along. Find a way to push Michael down into a basement where there are no exits other than the entrance, and somehow get past him, subdue him, and trap him. This is a terrible plan. All that time you spent making this when you could have just lured him down here more conventionally, created better exits to get out and trap him, and not scheming something where almost dying is part of the plan. I guess you've practiced this enough to know that the house won't explode while you sit there staring at Michael and get in your 3-generation group hug. How many houses have you blown up? At the end of this movie, Laurie and her family are in some dude's truck going to get help, but didn't Laurie have her own car? Or did she decide, if I'm ever in a situation where I can take down Michael, my car needs to blow up with the house too?
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
A message from the CinemaSins universe! Hey, did you know that we here at CinemaSins have a podcast?
I did not know that.
It's true. It's called Sincast, and we've been doing it since all the way back in 2015. Seriously.
Excuse me. Exactly how long have I been asleep?
But since you're currently on YouTube, you may prefer to listen to stuff here, right?
You're goddamn right.
For that reason, we're debuting the official Sincast YouTube channel.
Yes!
You'll be able to listen to sober movie analysis.
This movie does have so many good moments that I do think ultimately it'll be easy for most people to overlook the stuff that doesn't work quite as well.
In-depth dives into a variety of cinematic topics.
No, this movie is absurd. It's my type of absurd, though.
Interviews with amazing guests.
Something in me said, just shut up. And Miss Lansbury said, oh, I couldn't. Well, all right. And she sang the first couple of lines, a cappella, and the place went wild.
And much, much more.
Yeah, it wasn't until I watched you in bed at the hospital that he finally gets the girl at the end.
I want a whole list of alternative titles.
We'll be adding new episodes weekly, and we'll be uploading our backlog of episodes that have been previously published. So, subscribe today, and we hope you enjoy listening as much as we love talking.
That's what I sound like.
Say something, Michael.
Say it! Say it like my hat!
Here's Johnny.
Back in your houses now!
A plague on both your houses!